Hi, everybody, and welcome. My name is Ruth Zive, and I head up marketing for a company called Ada. We are the world's leader in automated customer experience, and our conversational AI platform is used by some of the most well-known digital-first companies in the world, including Zoom, Upwork, Digicel, and Marley, one of the companies represented here today. I'm super excited and honored to be moderating this panel of experts as we talk about ramping up service excellence and automation to support hypergrowth and scale. So with me today, I'm so happy to welcome Benedikt Dormann, Director of Global Customer Service for N26 Group, the world's first digital bank. Katalin Fritz, Chief Customer Officer of Marley, one of the world's leading meal kit subscription services. And Kathy Doorenbosch, Global Head of Customer Care Operations of Deliveroo, which brings the world's best restaurants to everyone's home and office. So welcome, everybody. Before we jump into the discussion, because we have a very exciting discussion planned and not a lot of time, I thought I would just set a little bit of context for us. I think we can probably all agree, and certainly the data suggests this as well, that the unexpected and widespread impact of the COVID-19 pandemic has really changed customer expectations forever and forced a greater sense of urgency, specifically around digital transformation. We see that e-commerce and online transactions really in general have grown exponentially. I'm sure many of you are feeling that pain. And companies are looking for new ways to engage with their customers digitally, so online, across all of their channels, and really much more so on demand. We also appreciate today that customer satisfaction matters more than ever. But this new reality can be really expensive and tricky to navigate, particularly at scale. So that's kind of the context that I'd like to set for our discussion today. But without further ado, I'd love to get the panelists, who are the experts, talking a little bit more. So question number one, I'm going to throw out there. Tell me a little bit about how COVID-19 has either changed or accelerated digital customer support in your organization in particular. And maybe I'll toss it over to you, Katalin, to start us off.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ruth. So in our case, COVID had a very positive business impact overall in terms of our order volume more than doubled, which brought a very interesting, also positive challenge, but a significant challenge, how to scale up our customer communications team to be able to serve this heavily increased customer demand. And maybe one more thing besides the volume, what I would like to emphasize here, because I think is very special in our case, we have a subscription-based business model. So generally, when we are looking on our communication channels and the type of our communications, then less than the 50% of our communications are issue-driven. So traditionally, our customers are very talkative and they need a lot of care and lots of empathy. They also always are begging for lots of advices from our end, which ultimately defines what is our overall communication strategy. So for us was a very important aspect when we try to react on these new challenges on the best way, that the majority of the increasing inbound volume was generated by new customers, entirely new customers, which is the most beautiful opportunity to automate further. So as you mentioned at the intro, Ruth, we are a very good and trusted partners, and we built a lot to increase our digital capabilities and automated contact volume, specifically focusing on the new customers and improving the chatbot content with lots of new information to help them to navigate, but also personalize further as much as was possible in a short period of time to leverage this channel and maximize the utilization of this channel. And also, as mentioned, was very important since the very beginning that we do not lose this capability to be highly personalized and take the time to navigate customers from A to B and create this omnichannel experience on the best way. We did scale up the team. We moved relatively quickly, which meant literally from one week to another, the entire communications team remote. So we learned a lot how to build a virtual call center in a couple of days, hiring, onboarding, train, and engage people across all regional teams in this way.
Wow, good for you. Kathy, maybe tell us a little bit about what this looks like at Deliveroo.
Sure, of course. I think so. Deliveroo is, for those that don't know it, we've only been in the business for 6 years, so we're pretty new into the market as well. And prior to COVID, we were already growing more than 100% year on year. So I think similar to Marley Spoon, it's more, we've been affected positively more than anything else. So with the lockdowns and restaurants being limited to offer dine-in, we've only just really accelerated our growth with COVID. So we've had to manage this change very quickly. I think digital first has always been our plan, and COVID really just expedited that very much. I think there are just, first of all, there are two things that we had to enhance. So this was always been our plan. We just really enhanced it in a way. We've always had it in place. I think the first one is what we call order help, which is our self-serve functionality. So working very closely with the engineers, we've been able to really provide more functionalities for customers to really resolve their issues without speaking to an agent. So we've really driven up all of the added functionalities and doing that within weeks, not the usual months that it might take. So I think that's the first thing we had to really enhance. The second part is really looking at our telephony and chat routing ability. So we've looked at what we were currently having as in terms of our tool, and we've moved actually to Amazon Connect. As it allows us really to make changes in our omni-channel strategy really in minutes and not in months. So it's more about enhancing these two things that we already have in place, our order help, self-service capabilities, and by the move to Amazon Connect that we've done during COVID, we were able to really now use our omni-channel strategy to maximize it the most. There was one thing that we invested this year. It's a pilot that we're currently doing with this accelerated growth, which is Unbabel. So we selected Unbabel because it was easy, it's effective solution. It did not require engineering resources to implement. And again, for those that doesn't know Unbabel, it's a seamless multilingual support tool. So they've used human expertise and artificial intelligence to really provide the best human quality translation. So we were growing, for example, I think we were growing more than 50% week on week, not even month on month, 50% week on week, for example, in Hong Kong. And we were able to really ramp up, and our ability to ramp up our in-house market was limited, of course, with the growth that we were experiencing. So with Unbabel, because it was easy, plug and play, we were able to use it, and very easy for users to use as well. We were able to divert our some part of our Cantonese support to our larger outsourced partner in Manila. And I think the results have been great. And I think it's just a combination of what do we enhance that we already have and what is new that we could actually use. And combining all three of that have actually allowed us to really manage the increase that we've gone through with COVID.
Gotcha. So some themes that we hear over and over again at Ada, I'm hearing here as well. The idea of speed, the idea of omni-channel, and then how do you reconcile that with the imperative of personalization and continuing to deliver an experience that really is going to be satisfactory and meaningful to your customers? Okay, let's move on to another question. So given the importance of this great customer experience, how do you actually deliver against that mandate? How do you kind of reconcile some of these competing interests, the interest of efficiency and speed and scale with the often competing interest of CSAT and personalization? Maybe Benedikt, you can speak to that a little bit.
Sure, I'm happy to do so. As you mentioned, it's hard to balance. Now, you on the one hand, you need to be efficient. Other than the two colleagues, we didn't face a very high increasing incoming volume due to COVID because we have a different business model. But how do we try to do it? So we are trying, the same as our colleagues, to invest heavily in self-service. So we are trying to make our app constantly even more efficient, that our customer can take care of almost the majority of what is called transactional requests themselves. So we are changing the app constantly. We are investing heavily in our self-service capabilities, whether it is chatbot, our support center, or other self-service areas. And we are trying to really focus on what I would call pivotal moments. So we're really trying to enhance our customers by having or offering a personalized service. If it comes to, like, if you want to change your core data, that isn't something where you should reach out to a customer contact center. You should easily be able to do that in the app, which most of the apps can do. But if you are, in our case, being a digital bank, if you are stuck somewhere in a foreign country, being on vacation, you're losing your card, these are the moments where we need to be there. We need to support you within hours, send over a new card, allowing you to access your money. So we are really trying to focus on the pivotal moments where we as a bank really need to be there for our customer. And if you do it in the right way, I think it very well balanced with efficiency. Because if you're really focusing on transactional journeys, trying to automate them, trying to transition them into self-service, you have a lot of free space where you can heavily invest then into this personalization and into the pivotal moments where you can actually make a difference for the customer.
Love that. Love that. So how do you automate sort of the repetitive, more mundane needs of the customer, the things that they ask over and over and over again that really aren't so high value? And how do you then zero in on those more pivotal, high value opportunities to engage in a more personalized way? I love that.
Yeah.
Who else has some comments along those lines? Kathy or Katalin?
Maybe two things what I just heard from Cathleen and Benedikt, and of course it seems so that's so similar across our organizations. That one thing is that also for us, the main strategy initiatives which have been mobile first, personalization and sustainability didn't change anyhow through this pandemic impact, rather forced us as an organization and still forcing us as an organization to speed up on all of those actions as much as possible and working way more functionally than we did before. And the other aspect what Benedikt just mentioned, and we built on this, and we also at Marley Spoon invested recently a lot of in this to understand those, as you said, pivotal moments which are really driving emotionally the purchase. So we invested a lot to build up our so-called customer insights team in the last 18 months, but also in this area we did speed up a lot, both in terms of investment and implementations, to understand what are those main areas and main times which are really impacting the repurchase probability, and understand for each and every area and each and every touch point based on our journey map and those data points, where to contact and what to say and what to offer to the customers on these touch points. So I think these are super exciting things because we all experience the same. But especially in our subscription environment, these are absolutely key to retain the customers and understand how to prevent churn, how to prevent skip, and how to get them.
For sure.
I think from a Deliveroo standpoint, I think similar, I think, to what Benedikt and Cathleen said, but I think just to add on to it, there are a couple of things that I think we've really looked at. How do you balance it out the right way? I think the first part is that we've really focused on customer segmentation and really defining what personalization really means to us. So we've changed things like, our agent tools to clearly show the customer lifetime value. So really managing it from the frontline teams as well, and not just from a strategic perspective. So having that ability for our frontline teams to know the customer lifetime value. But not only that, we've actually segmented as well our contact reasons to look at what are more emotional, like Kathleen says, one are more emotional to the other. Like I'm sure everybody have experienced the emotions that you go through when you're hungry and your food is cold. But how emotional you'll now get when you've ordered a meal, 3 children at home, you've ordered a meal and one of the meal arrived. So it's that different emotions of my food's arrived, it's all there, but it's cold, versus I've got 3 kids, one of them received their food and the other 2 doesn't receive it. So the emotion difference within the emotion impact as well. So I think that has a higher impact as well from each other. So we've segmented it not only based on our CLV, but also looking at our contact reasons in terms of what has the highest impact on the customer's emotions. I think was critical. I think The other thing we did was also personalization. So not only the standard, I guess, where an agent would know your name when you call or you chat to us as well, but we've really ensured as well that our agents in the front line have everything in front of them. So they can look at, order history, all the interactions they've had, issues they've had in the past, and everything else. And I think having that in that main view means that you don't need minutes to go through tabs or look at, looking at screens or tools. The agent can literally say, okay, hi, Ruth, I can see your problem. I can see you've called us at this time. I can see you've done this. Here's the solution to your problem. So I think we, in food delivery, we need to really service our customers very quickly, right? Our time frame is very, very short, and they're hungry. And hunger is definitely not an emotion that we want to have anyone put it through as well. So we make sure that our agents really have all of that information in front of them. And I think that was like one of our key part is leading it from our frontline teams and making sure that they have all the tools, they have the support that they have and everything from a frontline. And then on the flip side to it as well is looking at, when we look at great customer experience is in the form of personalization is what do they really need? So I think lastly to add on is that we've really continued our, one of our key value is customer obsession. And I think we've really looked at ensuring what do they need, what do we need to provide our customers beyond just food delivery, right? So we offer customers, because of during the COVID-19, we have to accelerate the offering that we provide. We also offer customers the ability to make an order while they're seated in a restaurant, for example. So really beyond what your usual core business does is, so when you're seated in a restaurant, you don't want to, maybe you're worried about touching menus and having to clean them, you can now order it as well. So we've done those type of activities. We offer groceries. So for high-risk individuals, they don't need to leave their house. They can all order they can order their KFC and order their shampoo at the same time as well. Right. So I think it's looking at in two different views as well, is how we've managed our customer experience, making that positive, and then keeping it as well into the overall increase that we're going through.
Maybe one more thought while I'm listening to everyone, that let's not forget food is one basic thing what everyone needs and creates lots of emotions. And the other thing is obviously money, looking on benefit. And both of these are highly connected to trust. So whom I let into my kitchen, whom I let into my portemonnaie. So I think it's crucial, this personalization and this touch points and this concise, clear experience across channels, what we provide to customers also from trust perspective. And maybe one more thoughts additional, just to refer to what extra we did. We also work a lot on the profiling initiative to understand the psychometrics of our customers way more than we did in the past. So also understand what they do outside of the meal kits, especially because we have a strong ambition not to having one brand, two brands in place. Currently we have Marley Spoon and Dinerly. So we would like to extend our horizon in these regards to know who the people are. But the other thing I did want to mention, and I think is a good thing that we do, and we have also lots of good feedbacks from the customers that this is something extraordinary what they experience in the service, that we collect CSAT on various touch points. We collect feedback also about our services in form of negative response rate, NPS, dish ratings. And whenever a customer is giving an average, so a passive or detractor score, this automatically creates a VIP ticket, and we automatically create an outbound call, or in whatever channel we see, depending on the ticket type and also the lifetime value of the customer, that makes sense to contact them. So we immediately ask back what was the reason, and we try to learn what else to do to improve. And I think that this is also an important thing, that customers immediately feel that they don't only give their feedback, but this feedback is heard and is worked on.
Is heard, for sure. Yeah, so we're talking about things that are very emotionally charged, food, money, and then if there's a poor experience, those emotions are even more volatile. So how do you segment, not just based on the customer's lifetime value, but how do you segment based on sentiment? How do you tailor the customer experience? So I love how you put it, so that those feelings aren't just being tracked and logged, but that they're actually being heard and responded to. So maybe that's a good segue to the next question. We see that, especially across digital channels, that customer experience is really being consolidated. The person who visits your website and is a prospect in one moment can become your customer just moments later. And so that experience is now, it's not a siloed experience for the customer. And so how do you consolidate that, not just across the experience, across internal departments, but across channels? The same customer that visits your website, again, 10 minutes later might be on your Facebook page or tweeting something about you. So what are you doing in your companies to actually consolidate that experience, aggregate the data, take down the silos to make sure that it's very seamless? Who wants to jump in?
I can start. So I think there are two things. Now,
Right.
of course, there is a technology component to it. Now, you need to have the technology foundation in order to connect all the dots across channels. But I think it's even more important, and I think Cassie mentioned it, customer obsession. It first starts with the right mindset. So I think before you think about technology, you really need to create this customer-centric mindset within the company with easy things like the entire C-level suite doing agent shadowing once a month to really have this close connection to what actually is going on in the customer care teams. What are the customer demandings? I think it's super important that you have on really C-level, you've got regular reporting and not just like, this is MPS, this is CSATs. It's more like an essay where you really write down, this has been the experiences, like really passing over insights. And as soon as you've got this customer-centric or mindset or this customer obsession, which I think is the same for all of us, otherwise we wouldn't work in this industry, it's super important. Then afterwards, that you have a regular framework with other departments like product, marketing, growth, because actually, and I think it's the same for Marley, Spoon, and Deliveroo, the customer service teams in these two companies, as well as in N26, that are not a traditional cost center or anything. We are at the core of the company. We are the only touch point to our customers, our most valuable good. So it's super important to close down silos, close down borders, and set, I think, the right governance in place that you have a constant exchange with all the relevant teams. And beside then, if you have done this as well, then it comes to technology. And I think we could discuss this for ages. There are so many vendors out there. There are so many ways how to. Omnichannel is a great buzzword, but let's be honest, who really offer true omnichannel seamless experiences? We don't do at the moment, to be honest. We are working on it. We are improving it step by step. But a true seamless omnichannel experience, I think there are various ways to create this step by step. We highly likely could discuss for ages.
For sure. And then the data impact of being able to do that, being able, we've talked about arming your frontline agents with the information that they need to deliver that great experience. So do they have that point of view? Do they have visibility into a multi-channel experience across the across that full journey? So what about Kathy or Katalin?
Yeah, fully agree with Benedikt that obviously this is for all of us a journey. So omnichannel experience, beautiful buzzword, but the complexity behind is really, really huge, especially in our case, because we are all a bit still startup-ish, right? So we started somewhere a couple of years ago, and then we build up step by step, and quite often systems are having and capabilities, tools, applications being built on this long-term view way rather than forcing ourselves to be speedy, and now this is, let's say, paying back or hitting back because now we need to orchestrate these efforts across ourselves. But I think that this is for all of us, for Marley Spoon for sure, is an absolutely key priority, and is also mainly defining our 2021 strategy to build this fully scalable and capable primarily digital capability. Maybe one thing, because I think that Benedikt described beautifully this wheel or triangle of what we need to focus on in terms of competency, culture, technical capability. On our end, we invested, I mentioned already the customer insights team we recently established, and we invested in that part. Also on the technology side, partnered up with Qualtrics to be able to create this end-to-end view and provide with this mission that we provide each departments and business functions with actionable data based on the customer's satisfaction data, emotions, and we aggregate this data in form of customer success scorecards, and each business function have their own customer success scorecards to having a reference what customers really feel on that respective touch point. And I think also there was very important, and like everything, this is still in progress, that this data is actionable and understandable. So we also have the responsibility to translate this in a way which is not too complex to be able to work with. And in our case, closing thought in this regards from my end, that Marley Spoon is also specific because the half of our workforces are working in fulfillment centers in production. These people are not office people, so we also need to convince them and connect them and build this customer obsessed culture also on the shop floor. So we also distribute the data to them in a different way, but on a connecting way.
Gotcha. We actually have a question along those lines. So maybe, Kathy, I'd love you to weigh in, but let me just throw out the question so that you can have that context in mind. Fabio's asked, how are your customer support teams managing all of these different priorities? So if you sort of look internally at the employee experience, what have you done a little bit differently to make sure that your support resources are trained on these new features or apps and able to really help with the acceleration and growth that you're experiencing?
So I'll jump in on that one. I think it's a couple of things. I think first of all, I think it starts off with the hiring piece of, right? So we make sure that even with accelerated growth, our hiring profile never change. We have employees that are hired based on their values and based on their competency. So I think that starts off as the key part. So not only I've got to put 30 bodies in there, let's just put 30 people in there. It starts off with the hiring piece of it. I think second part of it is working with technology that is easy to use. I think makes a training of new features easier. I think I mentioned about Unbabel and the great experience that we've had with Unbabel being such a easy to use tool for our agents. So really being smart in the tools that you use, I think would be the second part of it. And I think the last part of it is really making sure that we spend more time in offline communications, offline coaching moments as well with the agents to really manage their emotions going through all of these major changes as well. I think those are I would say the top three things we do. So we do a lot of side-by-sides with the agents. We provide them a lot more coaching support during this time, because we're not only investing in our frontline agents, we're investing in the support staff to be able to support those frontline agents as well. I think those would be the three key parts that I would say is how we've done it.
Cool. Any other questions from those logged in listening to this panel discussion? Okay, well then why don't we end with this? We have a couple more minutes left. What is one sort of quick piece of advice that you would give to anyone listening, something really practical maybe that could help them navigate through this difficult time to support growth or change and ensure that they're delivering a great experience?
For me, it would be easy. Listen to your customers and listen to your employees.
Great
I think
advice.
would be more that even with accelerating, everybody wants to go to automation. Just don't forget the human interaction, to always keep that as priority. Like, customers want digital solutions, but they want them to be supplemented or led to more impactful human interactions and not replace them entirely.
For sure.
Very similar key advice. Very similar key advice I'm coming with, like Benedikt. So listen really to the voice of employee and voice of the customer, and with especially specific gratitude when it's about a challenging feedback, because this is really what is helping us to grow and raise the bar continuously.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for participating today. This was really informative and helpful, and it was great to hear your stories. And thank you to everybody who's in the meeting and listened, and best of luck.
Our pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.